Can you believe there was a wrong explanation for why the Japanese looked alike? Some people were confused about the effect of the Hiroshima bomb on Japanese children. The truth is, the strange interpretation that is widespread among people, and we heard it when we were young regarding the issue of similarity between the Japanese. Because we always heard that the similarity between them was due to the nuclear bomb that was dropped on the city of Hiroshima. This is false and baseless. They make incorrect statements and say that perhaps they were, and say that they may have been confused about the impact of the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima. Because the nuclear bomb caused the deformation of a large number of fetuses that were present at the time of the explosion. But of course, it didn't change the Japanese look or anything. The greatest evidence of this is that the pictures in front of you now are pictures of the Japanese in those decades that preceded the Hiroshima incident. I mean, the people of Japan have been like this since ancient times. The issue has nothing to do with the nuclear bomb, neither remotely nor remotely. Why are Japanese people similar to each other? To understand the topic more comfortably, let us divide it into two parts. In the first half, we'll explain why Japanese people are so similar to each other. As for the rest of the second half, we will explain why the Japanese are not similar. Do not be surprised because you will understand everything. The fact is that if you were immediately shown a photo of a Japanese person among photos of other people of other nationalities, you would probably be able to easily identify that Japanese person. This suggests that the Japanese are indeed similar to each other and have common traits. If you're wondering why the similarities, let's sum it up in a few points. All the peoples of East Asia, whether Japan, China, Korea, or others, all belong to the same origin and the same lineage. It is the original Mughal dynasty. The original Mongol people had a distinctive appearance. Our Lord created them from the beginning of their existence. They continued to intermarry with each other for many centuries and did not mix with any other people. Over time, they were able to maintain their pure lineage from the beginning of their existence until today. This distinctive look is nothing but narrow, slanted eyes, straight hair, and a small nose. One study explained that the reason for these specifications, in particular, is that these people in the beginning and before they spread throughout the country were tribes living in the Arctic, and God Almighty prepared their eyes in this beautiful way to adapt to extreme cold, wind, and snow, and their narrow noses to reduce their exposure to the lungs, to cool the air so they can maintain their body temperature. In addition, one of the reasons for the strong similarity between these people is that they share the type of food they eat. It relies heavily on fish and seafood. Just imagine that one study says that the reason for the spread of American food in Japan has led to a change in the appearance of current generations. From the point of view of the study, this means that it caused the formation and features of the entire generation. You can easily find out if there is a Japanese person who lives in America and another person who is Japanese but has lived in Japan since they were young. Someone who lives in America will feel that his features are not as distinctive as someone who has lived all his life in Japan. The main reason for this is that it feeds on different foods and lives in different climates. This means that the Japanese in America are different from the Japanese in Japan. This is something tangible, and you can easily see it in most Hollywood movies. So in the end, if you ask why do Japanese people look similar to each other, the short answer is that they were able to support their dynasty for centuries. In addition to sharing the same diet that has not changed for hundreds of years, they also share the same climate and surrounding climatic conditions. Returning to the second half of the topic, which is why the Japanese are not similar to each other. Before you get surprised, let me ask you a simple question. Do you think Egyptians resemble each other or not? In other words, is there a degree of similarity between Egyptians just as there is a degree of similarity between the Japanese? Before you rush an answer, let me tell you that the answer is yes. The truth is that the Egyptians have a great similarity in appearance, and there is also a similarity between the Yemenis. The truth is that the matter is not limited to the Egyptians or the Japanese, but it is a fixed rule for all peoples and races of the world. Just like Japan. Just as Japan, China, and Korea belong to the original Mongol dynasty, Americans, Europeans, and North Africans also share some similarities and belong to one dynasty, the Caucasus. The people of South Africa and Guinea also share common characteristics and belong to the same lineage. In a famous story that happened in the United States of America in September of the year 2000, the topic was that a person had in his hand a purchase card belonging to another person and was estimated to be using it illegally. But with time, the police were able to arrest this criminal and hold him. And the strange thing is that at the same time, when he was arrested, he remained standing in his place and did not move. Rather, he was also surprised by what was happening, and after he was imprisoned while Asna was in the police station, he tried to convey to them that he was innocent and had not done anything. What remains surprising is that after the procedures and investigations, they discovered that they had arrested the wrong person because of the great similarity in appearance between him and the criminal they are looking for. The truth is, it is not just the policemen who are going through this situation. We are all exposed to something like this on an almost daily basis on television, at airports, or in tourist areas. When we see a group of people with yellow skin, for example, we feel that they resemble each other. We immediately call them Japanese, even though they may be, although they could be Chinese, Korean, or even from Indonesia. But apart from that, let us ask a question. Are these people really similar to each other or not? To understand the topic, let me tell you a story. If we assume that there is a couple who left behind twin daughters, these two girls are carbon copies of each other. With time, the father and mother can differentiate between these twin girls. They can easily distinguish them from each other, and the reason for this is that they have been mingling with the two girls for a long period. Therefore, they notice differences between themselves, and their eyes see things that we, as ordinary people, do not live with and cannot see or distinguish. If, for example, someone went to visit the couple and the husband started calling his twin daughters and telling them to come and greet his uncle, this strange person can't be able to distinguish them or notice any differences. Although from the point of view of their father and mother, the two girls have many very noticeable differences. No one can differentiate between them except those who have lived with them for a long time and mixed with them in many situations. This is simply the idea. In exactly the same context when we come to talk about the Japanese. The Japanese actually have features similar to each other, and if you walk in the streets of their country, you will feel that the people in this country are copies of each other, but when you live with the people more, walk among them more, hear them, look into their faces more, and deal with them more, you will find that they are very different from each other. Over time, you will have a different ability and a deeper ability to differentiate between them. A group of researchers in the United States of America tried to explain this issue and came up with a conclusion. This means that there is a cognitive phenomenon that makes it difficult for people of a certain race to recognize individuals of another race or another gender. I mean, depending on our nationality or country in general, we were not exposed enough to different groups of other races and we did not mix with them extensively. Therefore, we feel that they are similar to each other, even though they are not similar to each other to the degree that we imagine. Let us experiment. We will show pictures of three people and try to guess whether the people in the pictures are Chinese or Japanese. Were you able to find out their nationality? Do you know three people who are Chinese or Japanese or still? In fact, my friend, they are neither Chinese nor Japanese. They are Korean, but when we see someone with narrow eyes, a flat nose, and smooth, shiny hair, we think he is Japanese. When we look at most Asians, we feel that there is a similarity between them. Whether it is Kazakhstan, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, or even Malaysia. Although each country has its own characteristics that differ from the other country, each people can distinguish other peoples with ease. This means that if a Japanese person sees a Korean person, they will immediately be able to recognize that they are Korean. But if we see Koreans, Chinese, Vietnamese, or Malaysians, we will also say that he is Japanese. The strangest thing I can tell you is that even though we say that Japanese people are similar to each other, it is still strange that they also think that we are similar to each other. Like any other race, they had never been exposed to it, or they may have been exposed to it only in tourist areas. Let me tell you that there is a group of doctors from the British University of Glasgow who adopted this phenomenon and conducted experiments on it. They brought a group of people. The first group was from East Asia, Japanese, from China, Korea, Malaysia and others. The second group was from outside East Asia and included Arabs and Europeans. As a result, they created several images on each set. These images include people of the same race and other people of another race to whom they were strangers. And they installed brain devices for each member of the two groups to measure brain activity when exposed to each image, and surprisingly, they were extremely strange. There are two special groups of scientists who are recording the results of the existence of the phenomenon that we talked about a while ago, and they are two groups that took their time to learn about the other gender or the other race that is different from them. The brain was working and it took a longer period of time. So what do these results mean? Here it became clear that any country in the world sees the Japanese as similar, just as the Japanese or Chinese see any country in the world as similar to each other. See the Arabs or Egyptians as similar to each other. The Europeans look like each other, and the Americans look like each other. This is because each race in the two countries did not mix with the other race to a significant degree. This means that the Japanese are similar, but they are not the only ones. The population of South Africa is also similar to each other. The Arabs are similar to each other, and the Europeans are also similar to each other. The perception of similarity becomes increasingly apparent to the person who is different from them. And the person who hasn't interacted with them, finally, no one with straight hair remains Japanese. Thus, today, we answered the question, why do the Japanese resemble each other? Whoever enters this channel for the first time, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and hit the like button. In this channel, we answer the questions that may come to your mind while you are lying on the bed. As usual, if there is a question that confuses you, write it to us in the comments under the video so that we can answer it for you. I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.